Hello, my name is Alain Simonov and thank you so much for purchasing Into Thin Air. This material is basically an in-depth review of how you can create impactful moments on what makes a vanish. Something that is considered as simple as making something disappear with classics or modern techniques. We're going to talk about the psychological concepts you can apply to make anything much powerful. But not only that, we will also talk, of course, about the gimmick, something that I've come for, something that I've uploaded on my Instagram around a year ago, and people have been sharing around here and there and asking me where could they find this, and well, here is my insight and my handling, also my concept and how you can make it something powerful in your act, in your routines, and how you can perform that, what kind of light you can use, what kind of black card fabric or not. It's not something you can just apply on card magic, but also in a lighter, a cigarette, a coin, any object you can come up with it, it would work. So I hope you enjoy this material and let's get going. Let's talk a little bit about minimalism and what it means to me. Minimalism to me is basically all about cutting off all the noise, all the unnecessary parts, and getting to the raw diamond and pure beauty of it. We're trying to get to a result. But for that, you have to cut all of the unnecessary actions and movements and, you know, unnecessary sleight of hands, when sometimes a magician is trying to hide an object here and there, you know, that people can see. People can indeed understand that there's something you're hiding and something going on that they are not liking to see. Well, that's too much. I know that there is a coin there. I know that there is a card there. I know that there's an object there. Well, for that, I'm going to be giving a straightaway answer for the sleight of hand part, which is just relax and try to imagine how would an object really vanish. If it did vanish, you wouldn't be doing this or this or this all the time. Of course, it's something that we magicians always try to reduce. That's something I've been doing as well. But I always try to keep that at a bare minimum in anything. Try to study different moves, different movements. Not only stay at one palming position, but actually also change palming choices. So for me, in the sleight of hand part, minimalism is all about cutting all the necessary actions, the movements, the trying to hide something, feeling of it, you know, and actually just make the movement happen, the action happen. So yes, studying it, trying to cut and edit, that is the sleight of hand part. But there's also a really important part that most of magicians forget, which to me is the performance, is how can we make a performance even powerful? Well, to me, I'm going to try and actually bring another concept to the table, which is the assassin, victim, and witness theory. Basically, I'm going to try and give you an example of what an assassin is. An assassin is when a magician goes like this, wow, I'm powerful. And then he goes and he takes a card and then he looks. Well, I'm an assassin. I'm a great, powerful wizard. You know? That is an assassin. That is the cliche way of performing things. Of course, there is no problem in doing that. I mean, there are really good assassin performances examples I could give. But just doing it for the selfishness is one of the problems we face in magic, which is the I'm powerful, I'm a god or something. Well, that's one way, of course. You can work on that. But let me tell you about the victim. What is a victim? Well, an example of that for me is Cardini. Cardini is producing fans, and then he's looking at his hand and there's another fan. And he throws it away, he tries to move on to do something else, then a fan of cards appear here. And he goes, okay. And then you see how it's justified. He's not actually just producing cards just because he's awesome. He's actually being, you know, affected by the magic of it. You know, he's not trying to be awesome, a god about it, but he's just playing around, and then what? Okay, let me be. And the cards appear again. You see, there's a bit of a storyline going on there. You can also be powerful as an assassin, but you can also play a victim. You see? Different examples, complete opposites. But then there's also the witness. And the witness to me is basically, I'm going to give an example, or more than one example. There's a card on the table, I'm sitting here, I'm looking, I'm thinking, wow, what's going on? And then the card visually changes to red. Well, I haven't done anything, I haven't made it change, I haven't, being affected of it. Oh, it changed. No, I'm just looking. Curious, you see? An example of it is William 7. He has a moment in his act in which he takes a cup out, and there's a ball in there below it. He's looking, and the ball goes from point A to point B, rolling like that. Well, he didn't do anything. The ball just moved. Well, here it is. Assassin, victim, and witness. 3 different ways you can analyze and work on your performance. You can see that throughout many acts. Jan Frisch is a perfect example of how you can combine the 3 of them. You don't necessarily need to be one of them, but you can actually mix them. So Jan Frisch is playing with a ball, and he's just throwing it around, and then it disappears, and he's like, well, you see, he didn't try to make the ball vanish like, wow, I'm a god. No, it just vanished. He's like, okay, playing around. But then you can actually see, maybe he's an assassin, maybe he's a victim, maybe he's a witness. You're not sure, but still, you're getting more out of it. You're getting more texture, more, you can feel it happening. You see, that is what we're trying to do with minimalism. We're trying to create texture in all moments, even in the smallest one, to value the quality instead of the quantity. Instead of making thousands of cards appear, valuing the one card appearing. So for me, that is the diamond we're looking for. To bring more depth and history to the loop concept, here I invite someone that is extraordinary. His name is Mickey Wong, an extraordinary magician from Hong Kong, and he has been studying so many concepts and theories, and he's been applying that into his own magic to create the sensation of reality and to make it feel real. So his work on the Backthumb Palm project is another evidence of that. He's taken a move that so many magicians have considered as a side technique or an unnecessary move, and he turned it into a wonderful magical technique. So here it is to you, Mickey Wong.
Hello there, it's Mickey. As you can see, this mask represents that at this time of shooting, it is the coronavirus outbreak right here in Hong Kong. It is actually very dangerous, but of course, as you can hear that if I'm wearing the mask, there's no way that you can hear what I'm about to say clearly. So in a moment, after this introduction, I will be taking this mask away. And yes, you are learning all of this at my expense of my health, so be very grateful. Okay, so the mask is off, we can begin. Now, I remember when Alain showed this to me, it was around half a year ago, and when he showed me in Instagram, I remember I had 2 very clear reactions. The first reaction was I couldn't believe how clean and how beautiful it looks. It was really, really amazing. And the second reaction was I was amazed by how versatile the method is, because after a few seconds, I realized he fooled me with a method that I already know, and that is using a piece of thread. Now, of course, I'm sure the more clever of you realize that this is a very old method, but you might not realize how old it is. Because if you have a few years of understanding in magic, if you've been introduced to both thread work and you've done a few coin work, one day, soon enough, you'll be able to connect these 2 ideas together and try to play with this concept. And I think that is why I'm so amazed, which is everyone who has got
themselves into these two concepts, they would have invented one way or another some form of this method. And so in this section, Alain wanted me to go through the history of this because I've studied this for quite a while now. And so I can be telling you how the different versions of this came about. If you go to the website called conjuringcredits.com, we're going to give you the link, conjuringcredits.com. The name of this system is called hiding an object on the back of the hand with a piece of thread. It's a very literal name, but it makes sense. And the first invention was in 1896, so more than 100 years ago. And it looks something like this. Now, back in the days, they will be using a drilled coin. Now, we're using a ring to represent a coin that's drilled with a hole in the middle. The thread is attached here. In explanation, we're using clear thread. And one end of this thread will be attached to the back of the finger. So what happens if you hold on to the thread, the coin would be on the back of your hand. The other end of this thread would actually go inside your sleeve. So in other words, the first time this was invented, it was actually to complement a sleeving method. It's to make sure that when your object goes inside the sleeve, when it falls out, it doesn't fall off onto the floor. It gets stuck onto the back of the hand because there's a piece of thread onto it. And the beauty of this method is when the coin is ready to go back, you just need to use gravity and the coin would just fall back into the sleeve. For explanation purposes, you can see that it's outside of the sleeve, but in performance, this actually goes into the sleeve. As you can imagine, it's a very clean method. And so when you are ready to produce it, because there's a bit of a slack in this thread, what they would do is they just toss the hand and the coin will appear. And in the old days, you would imagine them not only using one coin, but they will have multiple coins chained onto the same thread. So when they appear it will be an entire stack of coins in their hands. And it would vanish from one hand and appear in another, because without the audience knowing, they have both systems set in both of the hands. So this is how it looks like in the first sessions. So this is 1896. The second variation was in 1901. What they did was they simplified this into just simply a loop of thread. Again, with a drilled coin. The simplicity in this, it doesn't go to the sleeve now, allows you to throw the coin not only through the gap between the thumb, but also from behind the hand. So now you can just show the coin, blow onto it, and it's gone. And so you can either appear it back with a very visual way, or if you make it disappear this way, it can drop from this side downward and reproduce. So again, it gives you a lot more control without needing to use the sleeve. Now there are two variations. So one is of course with the coin drilled with just one hole, so it goes through like this. There's another way of doing this, and that is to drill two holes, one on top and one on bottom. So in other words, the thread is going on a vertical line like this. The advantage of this is you can show the coin more cleanly, or the object, and it allows you to put your thumb through much easier. So you can in fact toss the coin around or flip it, and you can just one-handedly have it go back in, and you can do very clean vanishes because it's very close by. So this is the second variation. This is 1901, still 100 years away. Now a man by the name of John Collinius, he further simplified the system into this. Now there's no more drilled coins here. What he did was he attached the thread directly onto the coin and simply have a long piece of thread attached to his body. What this allows for is that the length of the loop is now customized. So you can, if you want, it's very tight, but if you want it to be loose, it can fall off onto the table, allowing you to have completely hands off. And as you grab the coin, you can do the vanishes as you want. Or you can even start with the coin under the table, so you can show your hand completely empty, and when you want, it appears. So you can see a lot more applications can be done. You can attach this onto your belt, and by extending your arm, you can control the slack of the coin. Or you can also attach it onto the ear So by lowering your hand, you can achieve the same effect. So these are just three of the many variations that's been developed throughout the times. And it has gone through many different names. It has been called Melon's Miracle Money. It has been called Now You See It, Now You Don't. It has been called Melt, Gone, many different ways. But the principle is still the same. A piece of loop attached to a coin. So depending on how you use it, the movement becomes very critical. And all right, so I'm back to respond to Alain's very good question. The reason why Alain asked me this is because he knows that I do something that's very similar, and that is not using the fret. In fact, this is a completely impromptu. It's called the back thumb palm. It's a palm that I use. In fact, it's kind of the reason why I invented this palm was because I was also very into using the loop. And I actually switched forward to using the back thumb palm because I feel that it gives me more control. And which brings me to why Alain invited me to answer this question, which is how to handle the psychology of a vanish in close-up situations. Now, I'm going to make a very bold prediction here. Now that, of course, Alain's vanish is very good and you're going to learn this through this tutorial and you're going to try to start practicing it. You'll want to start doing this. My bold prediction is that it's very easy to do this on stage. It's also very easy to do this for the camera. But I would say that many of you will have difficulty when you try to put this into the real world. In other words, when you try to do this in close-up, you start having problems. And spoiler alert, the problem is not angle issues. Now, to help you understand what kind of problem I'm talking about, I would like to invite you to stand into the shoes of the spectator. You have just seen a magician hold out a coin. He shows it very clearly. You squeeze it into your hand, and let's say out of some pure magic, he opens his hands and the coin is not there. Now, is your first reaction going to be acceptance that the coin is really gone? Or are you going to do the more popular answer, which is you start looking for where the coin is? And I would say 9 out of 10 times, people will start looking for the coins because they are not ready to accept that magic has really happened. I mean, after all, they know you're a magician. They know what they're seeing is not real, and you are in a close-up situation. Many people who do this for the video, they will have the protection of the lens that, you know, the audience will never be able to reach them, so they can just go through the motions and do it. But when you're really in a close-up situation, you're in that situation, they will try to look for where it is. And that's where the psychology comes in. People forget that no matter how good the vanish is, the audience will try to figure it out. And so there are two things that you need to do to make sure that the audience really feels the vanish. The first thing that you need to do is to make sure you give them a destination. What I mean is, if you hold the coin like this and you open the hand, let's say it's gone, the audience will look for areas immediately outside of the hand. Is it in the sleeve? Is it in the other hand if it's close enough? Or is it just, on the floor? They will look for the immediate positions of the hand. However, and that is the beauty of Alain's vanish, if you try to make the vanish happen in a different destination, the vanish will look a lot more different because now the audience will feel the vanish happening in a different vantage point. And that's where it happens, so there's no place to look for. And so, in other words, you misdirect the audience into feeling that the situation happens in another area so it looks clean. And so that's why we always chase for example, retention passes, or we want to go for false transfers, because the vanish happens in a completely clean location. If you do this, the one thing I would ask to avoid is to not open the hand like this, because people will start looking for where the coin is hidden, or even if you're using the loop vanish, as clean as you do it, they'll still look for it, right? What you should do is, instead of holding it in a fist, you should open it and toss it. So the feeling is that it's somewhere away from the hand. Now, the second point I want to talk about is the idea of giving them a closure. Now, you might have heard of a different form of the same point from other coin magicians. They would tell you if you vanish a coin, whatever you do, within 3 seconds, you should make the coin reappear. And the logic behind this is that will make them stop looking for where the coin is. Now, that is very true. And I'm going to take a step back and to look into what the logic really means. What it means is that the audience doesn't feel the tension of, oh, where is it? It's gone. What should I do? This sense of emotional closure, you need to give them an answer. And that is, it's somewhere else, right? So, oh, it's a transformation. In other words, you change the nature of the effect from a vanish into a teleportation, right? But what happens if you can't make the coin reappear? Let's say in the structure of a routine, it has to be a vanish. It cannot reappear yet, right? So for that, I would say to use the same logic, but to change the effect into a transformation. So whereas you can't really reappear the coin, you can use a different presentation. For example, you blow it, and the coin transfers into dust. And it turns into mist, it goes into thin air. Now, what that does is that it also gives them closure because now you're transforming the coin. So the coin is not really gone, but it's, like invisible dust, and then you can grab it back. So even if the coin is still gone, you still give them that closure because they know what to look for. Or for example, the coin is invisible, you toss it into the air, and now it's there. It's still better than you just holding a coin and then that. I mean, even there's no effect there, but just by going through the motion, you feel that tension. Whereas you blow like that, you feel there's a bit more closure because the nature of the effect is a transformation. And so other presentations, you've heard of this before. You have an invisible sky hook, so it turns invisible and you hang it there, or you break the coin into very small pieces, These are just different presentations of the same logic. You turn the vanish into a transformation. So in other words, don't try to just give them a question, where did it go? But to tell them, it's somewhere else, that gives them closure. Not by a lot, but you'll be surprised how effective that is. So that's it. That's the 2 pieces of sharing I want to share with you. One being creating distance, and 2 is to create closure for the audience. This is just my recommendation. It's from my experience, so it works for me. But in order for it to work for you, you also need to try it out. So take it with a grain of salt, as we've always try it out for yourself. So thanks, Alain, for asking me this question. I hope it helps, and good luck with the trick.
Let's talk about the construction of the gimmick, something that you can apply to so many other objects beyond cards. For this, I'm gonna first tell you what is the gimmick, how does it work? It's basically a card with a black heart and a wire loop. So this loop allows me to make the object vanish. So yes, mostly the thing here is on the loop. This is how it works. But let me tell you how you can build it. First, of course, you need a card, and this is of course on the example of the card vanish. Any card, any playing card of your choice, it doesn't matter. And then after that, take a black permanent Sharpie so you can paint all of the corners like this, so you can get a better black card result. And then you will need to cut a bit of a fishing thread. This is a black fishing thread. It's perfect for stage performances because I don't have to really think about inserting my finger on the loop. It's always gonna be there, so it retains the loop there. So it's not curving, it's not twisting, it's always there. So this is why a fishing thread works. Here it says it's 0.25 millimeters, so it works in the sense. It's something I recommend, but you can look for many other threads, find your best. So after that, after you cut the loop size, which is something that can fit your finger but also not so long, after cutting, after painting the borders, take any kind of tape. In my case, I prefer to use black tape, but it doesn't matter, it can be any tape. You take a few pieces of it and you glue the wire that you cut on the card so you can have a loop attached to it, right? After that, of course, you take the black card fabric. This one I use is synthetic velvet, so black synthetic velvet. In my case, it works. It's easy to find. You can find it at most fabric stores. But if it's not the case, you can use many other materials that are black and that could get the result done. So you basically go, you take the card and you cut on top of it so you can get the perfect amount of fabric, so you can glue it with the crafts glue. It's a universal kind of glue that you can use on most materials. So that's it, basically a loop, a black card, and a card. It's simple as that. And this is something you can just play around with other objects too. So this is the gimmick. For the explanation of the move, basically all you have is a card with a synthetic velvet and a loop placed, right? So here you place the card and all you do is keep it on your thumb, right? So on your thumb it is, and all you do is a slight movement backwards. And there you have this motion, right? So again, you place the card, you go, keep it here, and then boom. And you don't even need to do this finger rolling. You can just wait for a sec and then open. You know, so it feels like as if you have deleted a frame. You get it? So this is it. Movement backwards and the loop gets it done. And then to produce it back, all you need to do is the reverse action. Literally the reverse action of it. So here and here. Literally throw the card around your finger like this. So let me show you from this angle. I like go and let the movement of the arm itself throw the card to my hand. So again, 1 and 2. And you can produce it this way. You can produce it like capturing it in the air too. So this is the card version of the loop vanish. So let me talk a little bit more about how you can make this vanish feel special and unique. Instead of just simply letting the gravity work and the effect itself, because the method of course is really simple, there's more to it you can add. I believe this concept of a loop is really helpful in the sense of freedom. You're getting more freedom out of it. But this is something you can actually try and explore in different methods. Not only the looped ones, but sleight of hand ones. And this is not something that is just, oh, it's simple, but it has to be treated in the same way as a sleight of hand method. So I'm trying to make it feel like a frame has been cut out. So when I make it vanish, I'm not doing this all the time. Of course, you can do that, but that's an assassin perspective. That's easy. You can add more. You can just simply make it vanish for itself. You're looking. Curious. You see, you can play around with it more. It's not only about pausing and letting the visuals work, but about using your whole body to, express it. instead of just simply staying here, oh, it's empty, and then going back weirdly, you can simply just relax and move on. So you see, don't make it a big deal. Don't try and show off, wow, my hands are empty, my fingers are open. There's no need for it. People are seeing that your hands are open. That's something that is beautiful about this gimmick. You can make it value. But there's also one thing I want to talk about, which is try to go and see different ways of applying this. Of course, in the moment where I talk about the badge vanish, I go and I play with different ways of handling. I can actually grab the object, the badge, but you can go and use it in so many different ways. Damn, you can even use it as a switch or a color change or whatever comes to your mind. It's an accessory. This gimmick, this concept of a loop is really old. It is a classic of magic. I've been seeing this in ball manipulation, in coin magic. It's out there for a long time. But this handling is simply different. But it's just a handling, just an update. And this is what I'm trying to bring to you, is giving the sensation of freedom. When you have the sensation of freedom in everything you do, not only in the gimmicked version, but a sleight of handed one, you can just give so much more through it. So again, let me go with this. It vanishes, and all I do is relax. And here, you can also do something else. You can actually move your hand around it. See? I can show both sides of my palm this way. This is something I've been posting around on my Instagram for a year, and yeah, it is as simple as that. So this motion allows you to have a open-handed sensation. If I have all black, of course I'm doing this with a different color, but all I do is simply let the gravity work and the weight of the object tilt and allow me to show my hands empty. You see? I can transfer from here to here. It's similar as a back palm. It's like an open-handed back palm, literally. So here and here and here. So you go, it disappears. You go here, nothing. If you choose to produce so, you can go, open your hands and produce the card. You see, it's really free. And that's the sensation I want you to have. And not only this hand should act in a freedom way, but this one should try and mimic your hand. Instead of being completely relaxed here and like a little bit, you know, something's going on here, you can actually go and mimic with the other hand to make it feel real. So here, oh, it vanished. Oh, there's indeed nothing here. Now, let me see, here, and then you go and you capture. So this is a little bit of how you can make this simple moment so special. So right now I want to show you a different way you can do the same effect with the card. You can, like I said before so many times, with so many different objects. This one is a Nintendo University Super Mario badge. You can do this with a coin or whatever comes to your mind. So this, again, it's a piece of loop with the fishing thread. Of course, you can use penta thread, whatever thread that retains this shape. And of course I taped it in this sense, but you can do it in so many different professional ways. So for the first effect, all I do is I simply go and I take the coin. I'm going to show you a little bit of what it is. Basically just slide it back. I go and in the action of taking the coin, I'm just letting it go back. And then I just work my timing here. I value the moment and then it vanishes. A little pause actually helps a lot on the vanish. So what you do is this, and then you just ignore it. You can go with your arm down and relax. So this is one version. Another idea you can also apply to this is the one I just did in the Super Mario bit, in which I go and I clap, and it vanishes. So this is one way of doing it too, a little clap. And also something that you can apply, as I did before with the card, is the throw, right? This of course is badly done, but the thing is, the right motion you have to follow is a moving up and waiting. So it's a, I go, I move up, and not my hand doesn't go back. It just tilts slightly, but you go and then you open. Instead of just going all the way, oh, it's vanished. No, just wait, let it vanish first, and then it vanishes. So you can have this moment of where people are gonna think, oh, a frame just cut, and it was a live performance. So this is the result you're trying to get. The same thing with the card vanish. So those are the 3 variations you can apply. This one with a badge, but please use your imagination on using this really classic and wonderful concept with the loop. Thank you so much for purchasing In Through Thin Air. This material is simply an update on an old concept, something that people have been using for a while, but with different handlings and utilities. This, of course, is our way of trying to bring you a deeper knowledge into it. This, also beyond the handling, is something that can apply for different and other kinds of performances and categories in Magic. You can use it as a switch or whatever comes to your mind. It's not only a vanish, it's not only an appearing motion or a production technique. So I hope you can use it in your act and make it powerful and perform it and bring the sensation of freedom and magic to people in a way never seen before. So thank you so much.